I'm really excited to be a part of our Vietnam the History Makers panel today. So these are two really incredible stories that I had a great time learning about leading up to this. So I'm going to kind of introduce everyone real quick, and we'll go from there. So a couple seats to my left is Mr. Melvin Pender. So he served in the Army. I told him to not hold it against me. He was a West Point track coach at one point, so we've got a friendly rivalry there. And so he has a really cool story about his experience as an Olympic athlete while also being in the Army. So really incredible story. And then all the ladies joining us today are members of what I'm calling the Pan Am Air Force, I think. And so these ladies have an incredible story of volunteering to go in on a secret mission at the end of Vietnam to help rescue individuals coming out at the end of that conflict. So really cool, especially some ladies that were not in a military service at that time, right? But raised their hands as civilians. So with that, let's kind of dive in. So Mel, I want to start with you if I can. So tell us a little bit about just your journey. How did you end up in the Army? How did you end up as a sprinter at the Olympics? And how did you balance those things too? Because you kind of went back and forth. You were in the Army, and that's where it sounds like your kind of major sprinting ability was discovered, if you will. So tell us about that.
Well, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, actually in a town called Dalton, Georgia, which is the corporate center of the world. My father went in the Navy in 1942. He was a cook in the submarine. And I used to go to the movie to see the movies of the war. You know, you didn't have TV back then, so you go to the movie and they have these newsreels about the war. And I was kind of ironic. I thought I was going to see my dad. I was so young then. But I went to see this movie, To Hell and Back, by Audie Murphy. I loved this guy. He was short in stature like me, and I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. I wanted to go in the military and be in the Army and Airborne. So when I turned 17, I joined the Army. First, I was in the Marines. I went in the Marines when I was 16. Not in the Marines, but they had a program in Atlanta for 16-year-old kids that wanted to be part of the Marine Corps. But I joined the Army when I was 17. And it was a little different. They just integrated the Army, you know, in 1954. And they had just finished integrating, really partially finished integrating in 1958. And when I went to join the Army, they sent me to England, a program called Storyof. We rebuilt, all the airships were built by the Germans. I was at Stansted. Stansted now is a civilian airport there. I was there 18 months. When I left there, I came back. And I joined the Airborne. I re-enlisted for 82nd Airborne. I wanted to be an Airborne. That's the greatest outfit in the United States Army. So I went to Fort Bragg in 1958 and spent 2 years there. I went to Okinawa, and that's where I played football on the Army football team. I was the fastest guy on the football team. And the guy said, the Japanese are coming to train for the Olympics, and they wanted some Americans to participate in the track meet. So I told the coach, I don't know anything about running track. He said, well, you're the fastest guy on the football team. Just get some shorts and some starting blocks, and I'll take you down to Nago. So I went down to Nago, and there was like 10,000 people there. I said, oh, hell, what I got myself into. He said, just watch the Japanese. Whatever they do, you do. So I watched them get in the starting blocks, and I didn't have any blocks, so I dug 2 holes. So the gun went off, and they went off. I said, oh, hell, I better go now. So 50 meters down the track, I caught him. And I ran 11.2 in 100 meters. That's why I got in the track and field. So during the season, after football season, I ran track. They wanted me to run track. So I was undefeated in 100 and 200 meters. And they sent me to Yokohama. When I went to Yokohama, I was reading and seeing all the things about what they were doing for the 1964 Olympics. And I said, I'm coming back to the Olympics. I'm going to make the Olympic team in 1964. That was in 1962. So I re-enlisted back to 82nd Airborne Division. Had 2 hours a day to train, which the NCOs didn't like that. My boss didn't, because I was going all the time. I was traveling all over the country running track. So I went to the training camp, and I made the Olympic team. I made my first Olympic team in 1964, went back to Tokyo, played 6 and 100 meters. I pulled a muscle in my rib cage, and I couldn't run the relay. So I thought I was 27. I was the oldest guy in the history of track and field to run that fast as I was running. But I pulled a muscle in my rib casing, and I said, well, it's over for me now. So I went back to 82nd Airborne Division, and I said, I'm going to OCS. I'm going to be an officer. So I went to OCS, sent to Fort Riley, Kansas, 9th Division. 6 months later, I was in the jungles of Vietnam. I stayed in Vietnam a few months, and coming back off a mission one night, and this captain said, you're going to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. I said, for what? You're going to train for the Olympics. But I didn't want to leave. I refused to leave. I didn't want to leave my men. I had been with them 6 months, and they were like my sons. They was 18 to 22 years old, or 24. Those guys would be 24. I was 28. And I refused to go. And the general said, you have to go. He said, to be 11 o'clock today, we're going to put you on a flight back to Saigon. So I came back. I promised my men that I was going to win a gold medal for them. So I went back and trained and made the Olympic team at 31. I was 31 years old then. And I was beating all the young guys from colleges all over the country, all over the world, really. I was number 2 in 100 meters. Made the Olympic team, and I didn't go 100 meters. I was leading the race. I don't know what happened. I think something happened. I don't know. I should have been in the top 3, but I didn't. But I was on the relay team, and we set a world record in 38.2 seconds in a 4x1 relay. And during that time before that, I set the world record in the 50-yard dash at 5 flat, 60-yard dash at 6.8, 70-yard dash at 6. I'm sorry. I'm getting old now. I can't remember everything. 5.8 in the 50, at 55 flat, 5.8 in the 60, and 6.8 in the 70. I still hold those records. That's in the yards. They don't run them anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I went back to Vietnam. I was supposed to go to flight school. Now, this is a story that really broke my heart. Before going back to Vietnam the second time, I took the test and qualified to go to flight school, helicopter school. I went to fly Huey's in Vietnam. But when I came back from Vietnam the second time, they said we need captains in Vietnam. So I didn't go to flight school. So they sent me back to Vietnam, 82nd Airborne Division. I stayed there for a few months, and they rotated back to the States. Then I worked for Ambassador Kobe. Ambassador Kobe became the CIA director. But I was there 9 months, and they pulled me out again. I was 33 years old, and I said, why do they keep pulling me out? So I went back to the States, and I was running the best in my life at 33 years old. I would have made the 1972 team. I got assigned to West Point Military Academy as assistant track coach. I didn't make the team, but while I was there, I set the world record in the 70-yard dash while I was at West Point, and set records around the world, international championship overseas, national championship in the United States at age 34. And at that time, it was time for me to give it up, so I ran pro. Called International Track Association, and setting records all over the country at my age. Then it was time for me to retire. But my tour at West Point was one of the greatest part of my life.
Mel, can we hold a thought on West Point? We have some questions.
Okay.
At West Point, coach, right?
But anyway,
But,
I have so much to tell you. You have to read the book.
Yeah,
okay?
no, for
Read the
sure.
book, okay.
We'll definitely come back on the West Point coaching because I think that's super important.
Okay.
I do want to pivot a little bit for the last flight out of Vietnam. For those who haven't read up, during the fall of Saigon, President Ford authorized a secret mission to evacuate about 400 Vietnamese families and employees and their families. And these heroic ladies volunteered for the mission. So I want to ask them, Pam, Sue, and Cha, right? Cha? So when you volunteered and you heard, what went through your mind when you were asked to join, and why did you do it?
Well, we knew we could do some good. We knew we could get people out, and I wanted to do it. I wasn't afraid. I think we were able to get just under 500 people out.
Wow.
And because we were part of a crew, we had our airline behind us, and we went in and were able to take people out on Tuesday and on Thursday. But it wasn't easy. We planned. We took uniforms in and wigs, and we put those on Cha's sisters, and we told them to walk out to the airplane and pretend they knew what they were doing, not to just look around and feel they weren't sure. So they got on the airplane, and then we were able to smuggle some of the children out. On Tuesday, we had a few hiding spots on the airplane that the soldiers who came on with the machine guns, they didn't know those areas, and we hid a couple of children in the cockpit. But we had to pay off the guards for the last flight because they weren't allowing people to climb on the airplane. They made them, if they didn't have a visa, then they were pushing them aside. So we collected money from the people who were on the airplane. We took a pillowcase and we filled it up, and then we took it to the bottom of the ramp, and then they allowed people to come on. So the more money we got, the more people.
So can you talk to us about how that came about? Like, were you all together when they briefed you all and said, hey, we have a secret mission for you guys? Like, how did it happen?
No, I was called at home.
You were called at home, okay.
And I was called 10 days before, and then they sent me out the next morning to Guam, and I sat in Guam for almost 10 days. And then I met Sue and Cha. I think I was pulled aside and taken in on one commercial flight. We had a commercial flight on Tuesday going into Vietnam. Okay. And we went in then, but people were begging us to take their children, and they were hanging over the fence with babies, and crying and begging us to take them. But we couldn't take them because immigration was right outside the fence. But we did get a couple of children out that they were small, and we kind of huddled around them, and then we walked by immigrations because the fellow that was checking was up high, and he didn't see the children we were hiding below.
Wow. Sue, for you, like when it came to you, like what was going on in your mind, and what made you decide to say yes when you first heard about the request to you?
Well, I was scheduled to go in from Manila to Saigon on Tuesday, come back to Manila and lay over in Manila, and then go back on Thursday for a regularly scheduled flight. And then they closed the airport saying it was no more commercial aircraft because it was too dangerous. And when we went in on Tuesday, as Pam mentioned, there were a lot of people desperately trying to get out, and we told them if we weren't able to get them out that day, that we were coming back on Thursday, and that we would please try to get back to the airport, and we'd do our best to get them out then. So when they closed the airport, it was a huge disappointment, and we knew that they were trying to make something work, and waiting to hear from President Ford to give the okay for a mercy flight. So when, then they asked for volunteers when it was no longer a commercial flight, but an evacuation flight. And I was relieved that I was able to go in again, as I said to many people there on Tuesday.
Cha, you? So like, what made you say yes to this mission?
Well, it was as Vietnamese, I still have my family over there. So
Wow.
I welcome the idea to be able to get back there.
Okay.
So I don't know what I could do, but at least I have a chance to go back there. And so I just decided, this is it, I'm going back. Mm-hmm. And not knowing that I could get my sisters, my family out, but just go back and do until the last minute, So that's what I did. I was also like Sue. I was already, all like Pam. At that time, we have 2 flights a week, Tuesday and Thursday. And so we all on the Tuesday one. And so we know that we have another flight on Thursday, and that was the Thursday was the last flight and the last evacuation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Jarrett?
Yeah. Ladies, can you tell us a little more about like when you were on the ground, and you shared a little bit of this, but like, it seems like it would be very chaotic. Like, tell us about kind of how you you have to almost like pick who can get on, right? Like, was there some kind of process? Like, tell us a little more about that. Like, who was able to come on the plane, what it was like to kind of vet them. And Pam, you mentioned like some soldiers coming onto the plane to inspect. Just like tell us about kind of how you actually got through the process of like getting individuals on the plane. And then maybe also tell us about like what you thought and felt as you were flying away, like as the flight was being completed at that point. So Cha, maybe I'll start with you. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, because, well, we didn't know who to get them on the airplane and how many. But we were told by the captain, whoever we can get them on the airplane, they go. And all the FAA regulations were waived. People can sit on the floor, on the aisle, no seatbelt, nothing. They just go.
Yeah.
But we didn't really, we expected more people, but we didn't have enough though. We're still only 400 some people.
Sue, tell us a little bit about what do you remember from getting people on the plane? Like, are there any specific individuals that kind of stand out in your mind that you all remember? And what did you feel as you were flying away, like as the flight was being completed?
Well, I just remember trying to get as many people out as I could. There was no vetting. There were people in the terminal that didn't have exit visas, and so I at times tried to get by the immigration desk with somebody next to me, kind of hiding them and getting them onto the plane. Cha's sisters, as was said, they were at the airport, and I think Pam and Cha had them dress in flight attendant uniforms, and I remember a ground agent picking me up, and as the sisters were walking on the tarmac towards the plane, we picked some of the sisters up and brought them to the plane, and I kind of quizzed them on the way, the short ride, like, where are you based? And they said, Saigon. I said, no, San Francisco. And in case immigration got on the plane and we had to...
helping them
and they
tell
were
the story
questioned.
they needed to tell, right? Yeah.
And I guess as far as when we left, when we took off, I remember it being very, very quiet and just reflecting on the immense loss that people must be feeling, leaving their country, sometimes leaving family, their homes, going to the unknown, sometimes maybe just with the clothes on their back. And so I suppose that was heartbreaking to reflect on that.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. Pam, if I can come to you, can you tell us, is there any kind of specific moment on the ground that you remember, and what did you feel kind of throughout the events?
I had been trying to get a young boy, he was 12 or 14. His parents left him just kind of, they said, we don't have a visa for him, can you get him out? Just like that, not anything lovingly said to it. And they were boarding, this was on Tuesday's flight, they were boarding the flight, and they had two other children. The mother was Vietnamese and the father was American. And so I tried to get this little boy out. I thought if I took him around the back part of the cargo building that we could sneak on to the airplane, but they had guards with machine guns and they kind of pushed us aside. And I have many, many times thought of that young man and wondered if he ever got out of Vietnam. I told him to come back on Thursday, but he didn't. He wasn't anywhere around. I looked for him when I went back on Thursday. But I've often wondered about him, and I know that there was a dispensation given to children who were Amer-Asian. Several years later, they were able to get out. They were all given visas. And, you know, there was such chaos that we weren't able to take names or anything. So that one other thing was when we took off, when the captain started rolling down the runway, there was a little fighter plane that crashed right in front of ours. And the captain was worried that they were going to try to take the 747. He told us later, he said that the Vietnamese did not have a 747 in their fleet, but they were able to get that airplane bulldozed off the runway, and then we were able to move on. The captain had a brother who was a POW at that time and still in captivity. So I think he was very worried about that they would take the plane and the crew. He wrote us a letter later when it was all over, a couple of years later, and said he didn't think we knew the severity of that escape.
Well, thank you, Pamela. Amazing story. Mel, I want to come back to you. I did promise. So your time as West Point coach, track coach, your lessons from Vietnam, your lessons competing in the Olympics, like what lessons did you take to West Point as a track coach, and what do you hope that the next generation can take from your story? Like what lessons do you want them to take as they embark on their military career?
Well, you know, I was an enlisted man for 11 years before I went to officer candidate school. I thought I knew a lot about the military and the infantry. The young men there were like my sons. I mean, they were like 19, 18.
At West Point?
Yeah, at West Point. And I talked to them about being a leader, how to lead. I told them a little bit about my life growing up, you know, in the South and watching my parents and how they taught me to be a leader, how to listen. The word listen is very important. And my grandfather used to say, listen. And I would say that to them on the track. And I also told them about listening to enlisted men, because I was an enlisted man for 11 years. And you can learn by listening. And that was my main word to them, is to listen. Because, you know, in Vietnam, when I went to Vietnam, I had a platoon sergeant that had been there. And I didn't know anything about the jungles and the fighting and the booby traps and all this kind of stuff. So I learned a lot from him about being a leader. And in fact, before I went to Vietnam, I had him teach me everything he knew about Vietnam. So when I went to West Point, I told them, I said, you're going to be leaders. And to be a leader, you have to teach your men how to be leaders. You have to make them understand that if you jump off this, if they ask them to jump off this building, you jump off first, and they'll come behind you. And even today, I still hear from my men. And we won a lot of track meets. Navy beat us, but that's okay. But they still come to me and they call me and they still talk to me. These guys are retired. Some of them retired. Some of them are working at big corporations and now retired. But I still hear from them, and that makes me feel really good that my message to them as not only a track coach is like a father, you know, as a leader. And I learned a lot growing up in the South because things wasn't really great for black people. And to watch my parents and my grandparents, how hard they worked, and the things they would say to me as a young man, how to be a leader, how to love people, not hate. And he always say, we all one people, we all bleed one color. And this is what I used to tell my men, because in combat, you're one.
Agreed.
You one. And we have to be together as one. America's the greatest, we live in the greatest country in the world. But when we separated, we can't win. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I try to get to these young people out here in the yard. I see a lot of these young cadets out here. You know, you have to be able to have your men believe in you. And I believe my men believed in me, because when I left Vietnam, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. When I got to West Point, I know I had a mission to teach these men how to be leaders. And I thought I did a great job at that.
These are great lessons, Mel. So lead, learn how to lead and listen. It's actually my professor of military science my senior year said, when you go into your unit, don't go in acting like you know everything. Like, go to the platoon sergeant and tell him, hey, I need you to teach me my job. Come in humble. And that helped me during my career. So thank you, Mel.
Right.
Jared.
Yeah, thanks, Shah. So ladies, I want to come back to you. So, and we want to leave some time for Q&A, so maybe in 1 or 2 minutes each, can you tell us, you know, kind of what message you would have to young people, whether they're in or out of the military, just like how they can make an impact in the world, like all of you did. So Cha, maybe I'll start with you.
I would say that if you have something to do, just try your very best and do it until you
Great.
accomplish. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sue?
I think my message would be similar to Cha's. Just for me, I'm grateful that I was in a certain place at a certain time and had an opportunity to be of some service and to help in a desperate time. And so I guess my message would be, when opportunity comes, you know, say yes.
Yeah.
Take it.
You gotta seize the moment sometimes, right? Yeah, that's great. I love that, Sue. And Pam, we'll wrap up with you.
Well, I have a lot of respect for the military. I was born into a military family, and then I married into a military family. And I'm always impressed now when I go on to the various posts, which I don't very often because most of them were closed in California. But people seem to be in good shape, and especially the women I was impressed with at Fort Myer. So many of them that I used to go to the skills development class. I was doing some framing of pictures, but there were many women there who were just retiring, and they had gone into the service as young girls. They said they couldn't afford to go to college. They went to college, they went on and got graduate degrees, and it was just fascinating talking to them because they were so well versed in so many things. But as far as what I think the military could tell me rather than I tell them, what would be something that I would look for. I just think it's a very good thing for young people to go into the military. I think they gain a lot. And what you said, listen and lead,
Right.
is very good advice.
Well, the military saved my life, because had I not gone in the military back in those days, I would probably be in jail to dead. The things that are happening in my surroundings.
Well, that just goes to show you what we need to do today to
Amen.
many of those young people who need the help.
Right.
Need some structure, need some guidance, right? Need some
Yes.
leaders in their lives. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. So we've got a few minutes left to do some Q&A. So we'll go ahead and open it up. Gentlemen, want to help pick who's going to ask our questions? Great.
So ladies and gentlemen, is this on? So ladies and gentlemen, I don't think you have any idea how great a track athlete Mel Pender was. How do I know? Because he competed on our track at the University of Southern California, and I watched him practice his starts, and he was one of the best. To move forward, the 1968 Olympic Games, Summer Olympic Games, more world records were set in that games than any other in Olympic history during the Summer Games. And Mel was part of that, and that 38.24 400-meter relay team set a record. My question is, what was it like competing with Charlie Green, Ronnie Ray Smith, and the fastest human of all time, Jimmy Hines, and what was your preparation like for that final race?
I didn't quite hear.
You said when you competed against some of the fastest people in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was your preparation like, and what was your preparation, and how did that experience racing against them? How was it?
Well, all three of those guys has passed away. I'm like 7 years old, older than all of them. I used to train 3 times a day. I get up in the morning, I run with the distant runners on the beach at Fort MacArthur, California. I go out in the noon with the track team, and I go out in the afternoon again. We go out at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I go out at night on a field at Fort MacArthur and run 200 meters across the track. I stayed in the gym. I went on weightlifting. My upper body, I had to tell you, this was beautiful. I couldn't stand myself, really. But I worked so hard because of my age. It's something I promised my men that I would do. And people thought I wouldn't be able to do that because of my age. But I had to prove to myself and to my men that I was going to bring a gold medal home to them. And God blessed me to do that. And I won a gold medal with the relay team. I should have been in the top 3 in 100 meters, but I don't know what happened. That happens in a race. But God blessed me. Running against Charlie Green and Ronnie Ray Smith and Jim Hines, it was either one of us winning the race. Jim Hines didn't win all the races. I beat Jim Hines. And Charlie Green beat me, and Ronnie Ray beat me. But in the finals of the 1960 Lake Trials at Tahoe, California, it was just 4, always competing against each other. And all 4 of us made the relay team and made the 100 meters. Ronnie Ray Smith made the relay, and Charlie Green, Ronnie Ray, and myself, Charlie Green and Jim Hines and myself, we made 100 meters, which I was very blessed to do at my age.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Appreciate it.
Dedication.
Are you still running?
No, I'm a golfer.
We got another.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, ladies, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today. My name is Anna Claire Edwards. I'm from Texas A&M, Army ROTC. My father was actually one of the children that you helped evacuate Saigon all those years ago. So if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here today. So my question to you is, were you scared? And if so, how did you overcome that fear? Being a woman in an environment like that, where you are putting your life on the line for these children that you don't even know. And what would your advice be to people, especially women in situations like that, and how would you handle it?
Could you hear that?
Can you hear the question?
I cannot
Yeah,
hear her.
okay.
Just not quite the end of it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. So she asked, well, first she shared her father was, and correct me if I got this wrong, her father was one of the children that you helped evacuate. So what a cool connection to make that today. So she asked, during that mission, were you scared? Like what did you feel, especially as a woman, and how did you overcome some of that fear and anxiety if you did feel it?
And then also she did ask your advice to women today, if they face high-risk situations, how to deal with it, how to prepare for it mentally, right? So that's what she asked.
Yeah, so Sue, maybe we'll start with you if that's okay.
Well, I didn't remember feeling a lot of fear. I was 23, so I was somewhat young, maybe not nearly as young as some here, but so I think there was a little invincibility attached to just being younger, but I think more so that I was focused on the task at hand and just being in the moment and getting out as many people as we could. And so I think that maybe inoculated me from feeling much fear or anxiety.
Yeah. Wow. Pam, what about you?
I didn't feel fearful at all. I just knew that what we were doing, that we could help people, and that's what we wanted to do, help as many as we could. I felt like we had our company behind us, we had our country behind us, and because we were Caucasian in an Asian country, I thought if we were captured, we would be able to get out in the end.
And so then her second part of her question, for women today facing high-risk situations, what would you tell them, like, to kind of prepare mentally and to kind of overcome?
Well, some of the situations the women today have been in war zones are terrifying, so I don't know how I would handle that, but we've certainly heard about a lot of heroes, a lot of women who are heroes, and I know they fight from all different angles, from various things and discrimination and whatnot. So I just admire the ones who go through it and also who fight it.
Shaw?
Yeah, shoot, can you tell us a little bit, do you remember feeling scared during the flight, or tell us about what you felt, and if you have anything specific kind of for women today in those situations?
Yeah, we didn't have time to be scared or fear, all we wanted
had a mission to do, right?
Yeah, concentrate on what we we're doing and try to get as many people as we could on the airplane so they can go, so we can go.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think that even women these days or any days, you know, if you, and I think the ones these days, the younger ones, they're more gung ho. You know, no, they're more of being what they want
Ready,
to. Yeah,
ready for the challenge.
Yeah. Instead of my generation, it was a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah. So
great. Thanks for sharing.
now the youngsters.
If I can add one thing to that, just
please, Sue.
that I think that it was so helpful to be part of a team of wonderful women that going in together, and so I think that also is really helpful as far as the anxiety and fear. Just when you know you're part of a team and you have people backing you up, and you're backing them up.
And we had a good commander.
Oh yes,
Captain.
wonderful
He was
captain too.
wonderful.
So teamwork and leadership is important. So thank you so much. This was such an honor for Jared and I to host this panel. Jared, any closing thoughts? Or?
Just thank you all so much again for being here, for sharing your stories. Again, it was truly an honor to kind of learn about your experience ahead of time. And I mean, I'm just blown away by the stories and experience. So thank you so much for sharing today. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.